I stayed loyal while my husband took his ex to a hotel. So I vanished without a warning. So there we were, family vacation finally here. I'd planned every inch of it, down to the pillow firmness and towel count. And Curtis? He leaned in with this smug little grin and dropped the bomb. I booked rooms, one for me, one for Brooke, and one for the kids. She's my real love. I blinked, smiled like I didn't just get gut-punched in public, said nothing. Then I turned and walked away. Hours passed. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. His name flashed again and again. I didn't pick up. Because what happened next? He never saw it coming. I booked the rooms for me, Brooke, and the kids, Curtis had said, like it was no big deal. Not for me. I stood there frozen, right in the middle of the Grand Ocean View Resort's marble lobby. Our luggage scattered around my feet, like the aftermath of a life I didn't know was over. The paradise I'd spent months researching felt like a punchline now. Behind me, waves crashed against the shore. The sound mocked me, drowned in the polished elevator music echoing across the lobby. What? I finally whispered, barely a breath. Curtis didn't even glance my way, too busy scrolling on his phone like I didn't exist. You heard me, Emily. 3 rooms, me, Brooke, and one for the kids to share. And then she appeared, Brooke, in a sundress that looked like it had been stitched onto her in Paris, blonde curls bouncing, like she was starring in her own reality show. She glided out of the gift shop like she'd rehearsed it, sliding up to Curtis like she belonged there. Did you tell her about the arrangements? She asked, voice dripping with fake sugar, her manicured hand already claiming his arm. I couldn't breathe. All around us, families were checking in, laughing, soaking up this beach fantasy. Meanwhile, I was the only one in the room who didn't seem to fit the postcard. Then, Mom? Ellie's small voice cut through the air like a pin to a balloon. She was only 8, still little enough to sense something was wrong, but too young to understand how deep this betrayal ran. Where are we sleeping? Josh, 14, quiet, loyal, shifted next to her. He looked between us, trying to make sense of the mess. James, 16, buried in his phone like usual, but I saw it. He peeked up, eyes sharp, tracking everything. Curtis didn't flinch. Your mom will figure something out, he said with a lazy wave, signing the check-in papers like he was the king of the damn place. And that, right there, was the last time he ever dismissed me, like I was just extra luggage. She's resourceful, Curtis muttered, just loud enough to sting. Then Brooke, still wearing that smug pageant smile, extended her overpriced purse toward me like I was her assistant. Room 412, she said with a syrupy tone that made my skin crawl. Be a doll and take this up for me, would you? She might as well have snapped her fingers. I just stared at the bag. 1 beat, 2, long enough for every cell in my body to scream, "Don't you dare touch it!" Throw it back in her Botoxed face. Make a scene. Take your damn pride back right here, in front of this whole marble jungle. But I didn't. I took the damn purse. It was cold, like everything about her. Emily's always been so helpful, Curtis added, real loud now, making sure people nearby caught it. She lives to serve other people's needs. The kids were watching. Ellie tugged at my dress again, clearly unsettled by the vibe, but still too young to put words to it. Josh cleared his throat, shifting uncomfortably. James, hunched over his phone, suddenly started tapping faster, but I saw him glance up. He saw it all. Dinner made it worse. We sat at this gorgeous ocean view table, one I'd handpicked months ago. Prime spot, perfect lighting. But now, it felt like my personal hell. Brooke sat glued to Curtis's side, hand on his thigh like she owned the damn table. She was ordering wine and appetizers like she was the star of a reality show, listing off the priciest things on the menu with zero shame. Then Curtis leaned back and smirked. "You know what Emily is?" he said, eyes twinkling like he thought he was being clever. "She's like extra baggage, always there, always in the way, but you kind of forget why you brought her in the first place." Boom! The words hit like a slap. Josh choked on his water. Ellie looked from me to her dad, totally lost. James froze mid-bite, fork dangling. Even the people at the next table stopped talking. I felt my whole face go hot. Not in a shy way, no. That deep, burning, I'm gonna implode type of rage humiliation I'd been swallowing for way too long. Around us, other families were chatting, laughing, building memories. We were starring in a twisted soap opera, and I was the idiot left holding the script she didn't sign up for. "Dad!" Josh tried to speak, voice cracking. Curtis waved it off. "Relax. It's a joke, right, babe?" He turned to me, expecting me to fake a laugh, to play the good sport, while he kicked my dignity under the table. But I didn't laugh. I didn't speak. I placed my napkin down, nice and slow, deliberate. Then I stood. And every head at that table followed me, like a damn spotlight had just lit up. The clinking glasses, silverware, and small talk around us started to blur as I pushed my chair back. "Where are you going?" "5 number, Curtis called out, his voice laced with disbelief. He wasn't used to this. I didn't just get up and walk away, not without an explanation, not without his permission. I turned and looked at him, really looked, the slight furrow in his brow, Brooke's hand tightening on his arm, like she suddenly sensed something slipping. Then I looked at the kids. Ellie's little face scrunched in confusion, Josh shifting uncomfortably, and James watching, really watching me. They all looked worried, embarrassed, but there was something else in their eyes too, respect. And then I walked. Curtis's name started lighting up my phone before I even hit the lobby. Ringing. Again. Again. The elevator? Still ringing. Down the hallway? Still ringing. I slid the key card into the door of the room I'd booked in 10 seconds, flat with my own credit card, and shut the door behind me. Still ringing. I powered it off. Silence. Finally. In the dim glow of my private ocean view suite, quiet, clean, mine, I opened my laptop. The familiar screen came to life. I logged into the financial accounts Curtis always bragged about managing. The ones in my name. The idiot had forgotten who really held the power. While he played business mogul at family dinners and bragged about his investments, I was the one holding the keys to the kingdom. And tonight, I was done being quiet for survival. This time, I was quiet for strategy. I started with the mutual funds. $73,000, boom. Moved straight into my personal account. Next, real estate. Those vacation homes in Colorado Curtis liked to flex about, the ones he called his portfolio. They were under my name, filed that way for taxes, because he never paid attention to details. I filed the transfer paperwork to convert them into sole ownership. Then I tackled the business stuff. This was trickier, but not impossible. Curtis's beloved consulting firm, that golden throne for his overblown ego? It was technically run under an LLC I had created. Because while he smoothed over clients with charm and a fake Rolex, I'd been the one handling the legal work, contracts, and structure. Curtis had been too busy playing CEO of the Year to ever glance at the legal papers I prepped. Big mistake, Hugh. Every contract, every LLC filing, every dotted line, I handled it, while he schmoozed clients and soaked up praise he didn't earn. My phone buzzed again. Curtis! Call number 27 since dinner. I didn't even flinch, just turned it off. At exactly 11:47 p.m., I called the one number he never expected I'd use for myself, Jennifer Chen, our longtime family attorney. Only now, she was mine. Emily? Her voice was groggy. It's nearly midnight, what's going on? I need to file for legal separation. Tonight. Can you start? She was alert in a heartbeat. Her tone switched from sleepy to razor sharp. Walk me through everything. So I did. I told her every detail. The public humiliation. How Curtis strutted around the resort like he was king of the circus, parading Brooke like some prize, while treating me like I was the damn cleaning lady. Jennifer Chen didn't interrupt. She just listened, occasionally tapping notes. We'll need a breakdown of financial assets, evidence of emotional abuse, a solid separation agreement. Then, how fast do you want this to move? Immediately, I said. I want him served before he even knows I'm gone. Are you absolutely sure? I looked around the quiet hotel room, still lit by the glow of my laptop. I remembered Brooke handing me her purse, like I was her assistant. I remembered Curtis laughing at my expense like I was a punchline. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. All right, she said. I'll have drafts ready by morning. We'll lock down assets first, then move into formal proceedings. While Jennifer Chen worked through the night, so did I. One by one, I killed off every joint credit card. Then I rerouted every auto payment Curtis depended on, his gym, his flashy car lease, even his precious espresso subscription, straight into dead accounts or ones only I could touch. By 3 a.m., I had shut him out of the financial empire I had built, while he played fantasy tycoon. When the sun finally started crawling through the hotel curtains, I was already packing. My phone, now loaded with a brand new number, sat on the nightstand like a shield. No more desperate calls. No more manipulative texts. No more gaslighting. I slipped into the resort lobby like a shadow and positioned myself just right, close enough to watch, far enough to remain invisible. Curtis showed up first. Disheveled, eyes ringed with exhaustion, he looked like he'd spent the night pacing and calling, which he probably had. Brooke followed behind, no longer queen of the lobby. She looked pissed and confused, like things were crumbling, and she couldn't figure out why. The kids trailed behind, quiet, tense. You could see the stress all over them. Then, showtime. Sir, I'm sorry, but your card has been declined, the woman at the desk said gently, professionally. Curtis flushed. That's not possible. Try again. She did. Once, twice, 3 times. Each time. Declined. Insufficient funds, she said softly. Do you have another card? The desk clerk offered, still calm and collected. Brooke stepped in, clutching her designer bag like it was armor. Use mine, she whispered, but the words echoed. Curtis's face darkened as her card also failed, declined. I wasn't surprised. I'd watched the charges pile up. 3 rooms, 4 nights. Spa services, champagne, full room service. They'd been living large, and now it was time to pay. There's got to be a mistake, Curtis snapped, his voice starting to rise. People were turning to look. I'm a successful businessman. This doesn't make any sense. The clerk just kept her customer service smile in place, cool as ever, while a couple of security guards slowly edged closer, just in case. Would you like to contact your bank, sir? She asked politely, From my quiet little spot near the gift shop, I watched the show unfold. Curtis fumbled with his phone like a drowning man reaching for a life preserver. He called the bank, waited a beat, then listened, and whatever they told him, it hit him hard. He went pale. The kids stood off to the side, huddled together, trying to make themselves invisible. Josh instinctively put his arm around Ellie. James stared at the floor like he wanted to sink through it. "Mom paid the bill last night," I heard James whisper to them. "I saw her at the front desk." He was right. I'd covered everything. $23,000 on the credit card Curtis didn't even know I had. A vacation he ruined, paid for by the woman he tried to erase. As he argued with the hotel manager, red-faced and flailing, I rolled my suitcase past the fountain and toward the exit. The sun felt warm on my face. The breeze carried something I hadn't tasted in years: freedom. My new phone buzzed. A message from Jennifer Chen. Separation papers filed. Service scheduled for this afternoon, right at his office. I didn't look back. I stepped into the cab, leaving Curtis to finally realize that the woman he called extra luggage had been carrying everything all along. And by the time he went looking, Emily Morrison no longer existed. 3 days later, I sat alone at my tiny kitchen table, not in our old house, in a short-term apartment. Just me, 3 blank envelopes, and a heart that still loved too damn much. The silence had been necessary for survival, but my kids? They deserved better than disappearance. They deserved to know who their mother really was, why she vanished. I started with Ellie's letter, my sweet 8-year-old who still believed in fairy tales and happy endings. My hand trembled as I wrote about the day she broke her arm, how I'd held her through the pain in that freezing ER, singing "You Are My Sunshine" until the meds kicked in. I told her about the purple cast we decorated together, covered in glittery butterfly stickers, how she wore it like it made her braver. I tucked in a folded drawing, the one she made for Mother's Day 2 years ago. Stick figures under a rainbow, "Best M ever," scribbled in lopsided crayon. I had kept it pressed in my Bible for years, one of many small treasures Curtis had called junk. Then I picked up my pen to write Josh's letter. Josh was 14, right in that no man's land, between boyhood and manhood, still clinging to his mum, but reaching, always reaching, for his dad's approval. I wrote about the night he bombed his first algebra test, how we sat at the kitchen table until 2 a.m., working through the same damn equations over and over until something finally clicked. I reminded him of his first football game, the one where he scored the game-winning touchdown, and immediately scanned the bleachers, not for Curtis, but for me. Because in that moment, all he needed was to share that victory with the person who never missed a game. I slid his 8th grade report card into the envelope, laminated, because I was that proud of his straight A's. Curtis hadn't even noticed, too wrapped up in a client call to care about the fact that his son had crushed it. Then came James's letter. That one hurt the most to write. He was 16, already pulling away, building walls, prepping for the kind of independence that comes when you've been disappointed too many times. But I remembered the little boy who used to sneak into my bed during storms, who pitched baseballs at me for hours in the yard while I crouched like a fool with a glove, cheering every throw. I wrote about the night his heart shattered, when Ave Sumasi picked someone else for the school dance, how he collapsed into me, sobbing, while I baked chocolate chip cookies and told him that one day the right girl would see how incredible he really was. I tucked his old baseball glove into the envelope, his little league mitt he'd outgrown but never tossed. I'd found it during a secret trip back, hidden behind dusty trophies, like a time capsule of who he used to be. Then I drove to their school, marched right up to the front office, and handed all 3 letters to Mrs. Gibson, the secretary, who'd known our family for years. "Emily, honey," she said gently, eyes full of worry. "Are you okay?" "The kids, they keep asking about you." "They'll understand soon," I whispered, barely keeping it together. And then, the cracks began to show. Curtis and Brooke had tried to stage a picture-perfect home, but the kids weren't buying it. Josh called me from a friend's number. Curtis had taken his phone after finding the letter. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he sobbed. "I didn't know. I didn't get what you were doing for us." "You were just kids," I told him. "You weren't supposed to understand. That was my job." Through him, I started to piece together what was really happening at home. Brooke had moved in full-time. She was tossing furniture, purging photos, trying to rewrite history, like I never existed. But kids remember. James, digging through the laundry for a clean shirt, stumbled on more of the things I'd hidden away. Notes, journals, photos. All the evidence of the life I'd built for them, the love they took for granted, until now. James had found one of my old journals, filled with notes from birthdays, milestones, parenting moments I never wanted to forget. Photos from every party I ever threw, certificates from parenting workshops I took, just to be better for them. Page after page of love they'd all unknowingly stepped over for years. Each discovery peeled back another layer of everything I'd given. "She doesn't listen to us like you did," Josh whispered during one of our stolen calls. "When Ellie has nightmares, Brooke just tells her to stop acting like a baby. And when James talks about college, she shuts it down. She talks at us, Mom, not to us." That house, the one I had built with routine and quiet care, was now filled with tension and noise. The perfectly packed lunches? Gone. Homework help? Non-existent. Skin knees used to get kisses and band-aids. Now they just get rolled eyes and annoyed sighs. "Dad keeps saying how simple everything is now," James told me when I ran into him at the store. "But nothing works. There's no food in the fridge because nobody plans meals." My baseball uniform wasn't even clean for the game yesterday. Ellie cried for an hour last night because she couldn't find her stuffed animal. That stuffed animal was safe, with me. I grabbed it during one of my quiet packing trips, knowing exactly how much she'd need it when things started falling apart. "Mom," James's voice cracked over the phone, soft and broken. "Can you just come back? For Ellie? She asks for you every night." My heart shattered and stitched itself back together in the same second. They were starting to see through the lie Curtis had built, the one where I was disposable. Every piece of structure, every shred of warmth they'd had, that had been me. And now that I was gone, they felt the collapse. The final snap came during Josh's big basketball championship. I watched from the parking lot, couldn't bring myself to go in. Curtis and Brooke showed up late, mid-argument, barely paying attention. Josh stood on the court, eyes scanning the stands. I saw it in his face. He was looking for me. And when he hit the winning shot, he looked straight at that empty seat where I used to sit, where I had sat for every single game for 3 years straight. That night, in a dark, tense house, Ellie's voice broke through like a match in a cave. "I want Mama Emily." Even through the phone, I could hear the silence that followed. Curtis had nothing. Brooke said nothing. In that moment, my absence screamed louder than anything I could have shouted. My kids were finally seeing who I was. Not because I stood in the room, but because of what the room had become without me. I knew exactly where Curtis would be, when it came time to serve him, same coffee shop, same table, same Tuesday morning slot for his little power meetings with clients. His routine had driven me crazy for years, until now. Now, it was perfect. Curtis Morrison. A young guy in a cheap suit stepped up to the table. Curtis sat across from some poor potential client, laptop open, probably selling some fake dream. "Yes," Curtis said, with that smug, condescending tone he used when he thought someone needed his expertise. "You've been served." The manila envelope landed on Curtis's laptop with a soft thud, but in that packed cafe, it might as well have been a grenade. His client, a jittery woman clutching a business proposal, blinked in panic as the color drained from his face. Jennifer Chen hadn't held back. Acid freeze. Business dissolution. Legal separation. Every account connected to my name, which, let's be honest, was basically everything, had been locked, sealed, gone. That consulting firm Curtis always bragged about building. It wasn't his. It was a hollow shell, running on my legal filings, my credit, and my connections. This can't be legal," he muttered, scanning the documents like they were in a language he'd never seen. His client quietly gathered her papers and dipped, realizing this meeting had just gone up in flames. Within hours, the rest of his world began crumbling. At lunch, his business credit card got declined. At the gym, his corporate membership was revoked for non-payment. His leased BMW, his precious rolling ego, was already flagged for repossession. Why? Because I'd been covering the payments from my own personal account for 18 months. Later that day, Brooks stormed into his office, heels echoing like panic down the marble floor I paid for. "Curtis, what the hell is going on?" she shrieked, waving her phone. "My card got declined at Nordstrom. The bank says there's suspicious activity on our joint account." Curtis laughed. A dry, cracked laugh with no punchline. "Brooke," he said deadpan, "we don't have a joint account. We never did." Meanwhile, back at the house, James was witnessing the chaos unfold in real time. He was there when Brooke lost it, tearing through Curtis's office like a woman possessed. What she found confirmed what I always knew but never rubbed in. Every deed, every contract, every real asset had one name on it: mine. Curtis had been living in a home I bought, driving cars I financed, running a business built on the credit and connections I nurtured for over a decade. "She made me look like a damn fool," Curtis fumed to his brother over the phone, completely unaware that James was listening from the hallway. "Everything I thought I owned, everything I built, it's hers." But this financial fallout, it was only the beginning. The kids, fired up by the truth in my letters, and increasingly sick of Brooke's performative gifts and controlling vibe, started digging through the past themselves. Josh found the photo albums, hidden in the basement, buried behind boxes of old ornaments. Page after page told the same story. Me, on the sidelines at soccer games. Me, gluing volcanoes together for science fairs. Me, holding him in the ER when he had his appendix taken out at 10. Curtis? He popped up sometimes, usually in the background, usually on his phone. "Look at this," Josh whispered to James, holding up a photo from his 13th birthday. I was right there, next to him, lighting candles, beaming like the proudest mom in the world. Curtis? He was in the corner, checking his watch, already itching to leave. Then Ellie found her baby book, every page covered in my handwriting. First smile, first word, first step, documented with love, detail, and care. Curtis's contributions? A few signatures on school forms. A couple of generic birthday cards. That was the extent of Curtis's parenting. Daddy never came to my dance recital, Ellie told Brooke one night, her little voice slicing through all the adult lies like a knife. But Mama Emily came to every single one, she added. She even helped me make my costumes. Brooke tried to brush it off with that fake adult logic. Well, your father was working hard to provide for you. But the kids weren't buying it anymore. They'd seen the photos. They remembered the details. No excuse could cover up the silence Curtis had left behind. He started calling everyone, desperate, scrambling. My number? Still a mystery, but he tried every angle. Friends, family, old co-workers. They all said the same thing. We haven't heard from her. We can't help you. She won't even talk to me, he whined to his mother during one of his increasingly pitiful visits. How am I supposed to fix this if she won't even listen? But I was listening, through my kids' whispered phone calls, through Jennifer Chen's updates on his flailing legal strategy, through mutual friends who sent word about his spiraling panic. The silence he once used to punish me had become my sharpest blade. Curtis, the man who once said I was just extra luggage, was finally realizing the truth. He'd been living in luggage I packed, flying on tickets I bought, staying in hotels I booked, taking credit for a life I built from the ground up. And now that life was gone. Late at night, he sat alone in a house that legally belonged to me, surrounded by children who no longer bought into his revisionist family history, next to a woman who had just discovered that every dollar of security she thought she'd gained was built on lies and borrowed power. My silence? It stared back at him like a mirror, unforgiving, unavoidable. Without me, Curtis Morrison was just a hollow costume, a character in a script he didn't write. And the author had stopped writing his lines. Then, one Thursday night, James showed up at my door. 16 years old, tall and soaked through, rain dripping from his hair. He'd walked the whole 3 miles from Curtis's house in the middle of a storm. "Mom," he said. Just one word. Cracked, heavy, full of everything he'd kept inside for years. I opened the door, and he collapsed into my arms like the little boy he used to be, the one who needed me when the world got too loud. His whole body shook. 16 years of mixed loyalty and silent heartbreak finally breaking free. "Why didn't you tell me?" He sobbed into my shoulder. "Why didn't you tell me what you gave up for us? What Dad really was?" I guided him into the living room, small, modest, but safe. He dropped onto my second-hand couch, looking like a storm had blown through his chest. "You were just a kid, James," I said gently. "I wanted you to feel loved. I wanted you to believe you had a dad worth respecting." I paused. The words caught in my throat, even if that meant hiding the hard truth. "But I hurt you," he whispered. "All those times I chose him, all those times I didn't stand up for you." James said, choking on the guilt. "I was a terrible son." "No," I said, my voice steady and sharp. "You were exactly the son I raised. Loyal, loving, trusting." I reached over and touched his shoulder. "Those are beautiful things, sweetheart. Don't let his failures make you question your own heart." James slowly pulled something from his backpack, a battered composition notebook, instantly familiar. One of my old journals, from 3 years ago, pages full of quiet pain and invisible sacrifice. "Josh found this in a storage box Dad forgot about," he said, fingers brushing the worn cover. "I read what you wrote about the night I broke my wrist at practice." His voice trailed off, then returned, lower, heavier. You wrote about sitting with me in the ER for 6 hours holding my hand while I cried, and how you called in sick the next day, even though you couldn't afford to miss work. Dad didn't come, said he had a business dinner. I remembered every second of that night. You also wrote about that job promotion you gave up because it would have meant travel, and you didn't want to be gone more than you already were for his career. James' voice cracked. You even wrote about selling your grandma's ring to pay for Josh's football gear because Dad said money was tight. I closed my eyes. That emerald ring, 4 generations old, my most treasured heirloom. Curtis had asked about it once. I told him I'd locked it up somewhere safe. I didn't write that stuff for anyone to see, I said quietly. I wrote it for me, to remind myself it was all worth it. Because sometimes, when you're giving everything, it helps to remember why. James looked at me, eyes red and wet. He told us you were weak, that you needed us to take care of you. But it was the other way around, wasn't it? You were taking care of all of us, even him. Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Josh stood there in the rain, soaked and shivering, with Ellie's small hand clenched tight in his. Her face was streaked with tears. In her arms was the stuffed animal I'd snuck out of the house, because I knew she'd need it eventually. We walked, Josh said simply. Ellie wanted her birthday with you. My heart dropped. I'd forgotten. In the chaos of lawyers, paperwork, and emotional survival, I'd forgotten. Today was her 9th birthday, and somehow, through all the noise and mess, my children had found their way to me. Brooke planned a party, Ellie whispered, her little voice barely there, but she invited her friends, not mine. She got me a cake with flowers, but I hate flowers on cake, and the dress is too big and the wrong colour. Everything was wrong, Mama. Ellie's voice trembled as she looked up at me, soaked from the rain, clutching her stuffed animal like a lifeline. I dropped to my knees, my heart splintering at the look in her eyes, so young, but already tired of pretending things were fine. Oh, baby girl. I told them I wanted you, she blurted, her words rushing out like a dam had burst. I said it was my birthday, and I get to choose. And I chose you. She sniffled. Dad got mad. Brooks said I was being ungrateful. But Josh said we could go find you, so we left. Josh stepped forward, trying to sound like it was no big deal. We just walked out, he said, jaw tight. Let them try and stop us. I looked at the 3 of them, drenched, defiant, shivering but unshaken, and something inside me cracked open. Not because I'd begged, not because I'd guilted them, but because they chose me. They finally saw the truth about what our family really was. Are you going to make us go back? James asked, his voice quiet but full of old fear. Never again, I told him, with every ounce of strength I had. Not unless you want to. Ellie launched herself into my arms. She fit against me like she'd never left. Josh joined us, then James. And suddenly, we were a tangled, tear-soaked mess on my living room floor. A mess I never wanted to clean up. I'm sorry, Mama, Ellie whispered against my neck. I'm sorry I forgot how much you love us. You didn't forget, sweetheart, I murmured. You were just lost for a little while, that's not your fault. We're not going back, Josh said firmly now. We all want to stay with you. I held them close, felt their heartbeats against mine, and realized something that made my chest tighten. My silence, my refusal to scream or fight or explain, had done something no confrontation ever could. It gave them room. Room to see. Room to choose. And they came home. Not to a house. To the love that never left. That silence? It wasn't punishment. It was protection. For them. And for the part of my heart I still needed to salvage. And now, with their arms wrapped around me, that heart finally felt whole again. The eviction notice hit Curtis's front door 3 months later. Tuesday morning, October, right on schedule. Jennifer Chen let me know over coffee, her voice calm, clinical. "He's lost the house," she said. "Couldn't make the mortgage after you froze the accounts. And since he never technically owned it..." She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. I stirred my coffee, watching the cream swirl into nothing. And Brooke? Gone. She bolted the minute his card started declining. Apparently she'd been updating her resume since that hotel debacle. Now she was a pharmaceutical sales manager in Phoenix. Left while Curtis was at his brother's house, begging for a loan. The home I built, filled, fought for, now sat empty, its windows reflecting nothing but clouds. Curtis had been forced into a tiny studio across town, the kind of place college kids rent when their parents cut them off. The BMW? Repossessed. Now he was driving some sad little Honda with a dented bumper and an attitude. Meanwhile, me and the kids, we built something real. I bought a modest 3-bedroom ranch in the next school district, close enough for the kids to keep their friends, far enough for a fresh start. It wasn't flashy, just clean white walls, wooden floors, and windows that let in the morning light without pretending to be more than they were. "Mom, can we paint my room purple?" Ellie asked on move-in day, her 9-year-old eyes sparkling with hope. "Any color you want, sweetheart," I said. That weekend, we painted Ellie's room together, all 4 of us. Purple walls, silver stars. We stuck them on one by one, while music blasted from James's phone. Josh got paint in his hair and pretended it was intentional. We laughed so hard our stomachs hurt. Simple, maman. But after years of walking on eggshells around Curtis's moods, they felt like revolution. The boys chose to share the bigger bedroom, not because space was tight, but because they wanted to. "We've got 16 years of real conversations to catch up on," James had said with a smirk. I turned the garage into a home office and started rebuilding my consulting practice. This time, on my name, my terms. Turns out, a lot of those clients Curtis had bragged about, they only worked with him because of me. They'd respected my work, but tolerated his ego. Now, they called me directly. My phone buzzed constantly with projects I'd forgotten I was good enough to lead. "Emily, we've been hoping you'd break out on your own," said Henry Wells, an old client, who always made Curtis sweat. "Your husband's presentations were flashy, but we knew the real brains came from you." 6 months later, I sent Curtis his final goodbye. It wasn't a letter, not exactly. It was a 37-page spreadsheet, an itemized breakdown of every cent I'd spent on him across 12 years of marriage. $847,000 in mortgage payments for a house that was legally mine. $124,000 in car payments for the status rides he flaunted. $67,000 in credit card debt for steak dinners, golf clubs, and overpriced suits. $43,000 in legal and admin fees for business filings, contracts, and patent work he claimed were his victories. It told a story he never wanted to face. The woman he called supportive had actually been the structure, the one who gave up her own career, ambitions, and time so he could parade around pretending he built it all himself. And I didn't stop at money. I logged the unpaid labor, too. 2,190 hours of administrative work for his company. 847 client dinners where I played charming wife and silent strategist. 156 parent-teacher conferences I attended solo, while he couldn't get away. The final page had just 2 sentences. My silence was never weakness. It was protection from you. I mailed it on a Thursday, certified mail, to his tiny, beat-down apartment. Tracking confirmed he signed for it himself at 2:47 p.m. Friday. He never replied. That weekend, while the kids and I planted tomatoes and carrots in our tiny backyard, Curtis sat alone in his studio apartment, reading, rereading, every line of the document that laid out the truth he never wanted to see. James later told me Curtis had called him, voice shaky, like a man unraveling, trying to spin it, downplay it, find a way to justify what those numbers revealed. He kept saying you were being vindictive, James told me during one of our evening walks around the neighborhood. But I read it all, Mom. You weren't being mean, you were just being honest. I nodded, watching Ellie chase fireflies under the dusk sky. Honesty feels cruel to people who've lived too long in a lie, I said. By December, Curtis had gone silent. First it was weekly calls begging for time with the kids, then monthly, and then nothing. The man, who once demanded center stage in every family meltdown, had finally learned the brutal weight of silence, not by choice, but by consequence. Christmas morning came. In our modest living room, the kids unwrapped presents, paint sets, books, puzzles. Laughter spilled into the corners of a house that now held peace instead of pressure. Meanwhile, across town, Curtis woke up alone in a cramped, echoing box of a studio, to the sound of his upstairs neighbors yelling, "No tree, no kids, no warmth." Just the silence he once forced on me, now his only companion. He had nothing left but the consequences of pretending I was irrelevant. I watched Ellie sort her new art supplies like they were treasure. Josh argued strategy with James over a board game they'd just opened. And I realized, this silence, the one I'd chosen instead of shouting or begging or chasing, it had given us everything we never even knew we were missing. Curtis's world had shrunk to the size of his ego, small, lonely, and profoundly quiet. Ours? It had expanded beyond measure. If this story of quiet revenge hit you like it hit me, leave a comment. Was your favorite part the moment his card declined? When the kids walked out to find her? Or when that envelope landed on his laptop like the hammer it was? Tell me below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this one.